Good day, good day. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Jay, and this is Homeschool Your Kids podcast. Today we have with us Leslie. Leslie, introduce yourself.
Hi, good morning. I'm Leslie Catlett, and I'm the owner and founder of the Penmanship Lab.
Yes, tell us about the Penmanship Lab.
So, the Penmanship Lab is a handwriting and fine motor coaching business that I started in 2017, simply due to the de-emphasis of mainstream education getting rid of handwriting in itself. And me being an occupational therapist, I knew that there was a dire need for me to provide these services for students who not only had an IEP or 504, but also just needed the help in remediation of their handwriting skills.
Yes, them handwriting skills. It's wild because I feel like they are doing away with handwriting. My friend,
Yes.
she has a 12-year-old and she homeschools, of course, and she talks about how she does not like writing. My 10-year-old, she writes. My 7-year-old, I gotta talk her into it.
Okay.
But how does that look? How does your penmanship lab look?
So I do understand you and your friends' need because I'm a homeschool mom as well. So I was able to provide that individualized instruction to my own children. And so I know that there are challenges that you face with the not wanting to write, the attention. So being able to provide those activities that multisensory activities. So being able to use those large motor skills, use different materials or mediums to make handwriting fun, that's the key. So that's
Yeah.
basically what the Penmanship Lab looks like. It's involving, not only formal instruction of letter formation, sizing, spacing, and letter placement, but incorporating those multi-senses to help with learning and make it more exciting and fun and enjoyable for the learners.
Yes. How do we make it fun? How do we
So
put the fun there?
making it fun,
Tell us the secret. Tell us the secret.
using Play-Doh, arts and
Okay.
crafts, putting sugar, salt in a container and let's say, oh, draw this letter and, paint brushes, making an obstacle course. And then maybe at the end of the obstacle course, there's a little container that has some papers in it with letters on it, pulling out the letter and say, write this letter and then go back and do the obstacle course again. And then let's try writing
Right.
this letter good. So incorporating those large motor skills with the fine motor skills is helping. And then again, making it fun and enjoyable.
Yeah, that's some good thinking, Leslie, because I didn't think about that. A whole obstacle course, that would be cool. That would
Even,
be cool.
even if you're standing, cooking dinner, having the child write the letter on your back as you're doing it. And then maybe you turn
Uh,
around and writing the letter. That sensory, can you write that letter? Did you write it correctly? Say the steps as you're writing the letter, things like that.
oh, nice. So with the penmanship lab, is it a course or is it just activities?
So basically it's one-on-one private coaching and or small groups. And so we try to make it small, no more than 4 students. So you're getting that individualized because every student does not learn the same. Every student
Mm,
doesn't have the same development skills where they are. So you're catering to what the child needs specifically. And so that's basically what it looks like because, teachers, if you're in the classroom, there's 20 plus kids, the teachers can identify every student's needs. So they're teaching this every child the same thing at the same time, but maybe one child is ahead, one child is behind, and or the child's pencil grip is not where it should be. So they're struggling to write the letters because their pencil grip, just different things that we work on an individualized for each child because again, specifically learning does not have to be catered to the child, every child the same because every child
mhm.
is different and unique in their own way. So it's personalized instruction for each child.
Indeed, indeed. And I've shared this story so many times over, but I need you to express to parents just the importance of like just putting a pencil in their child's hand. My child, my oldest, started kindergarten. Me and her kindergarten teacher were talking, and she was just telling me about like the numbers that she has as far as like kids and the level they're at. So she was explaining to me like the year before my daughter was in her class, um, she had 22 students on her roster, and she said 9 of them had never held a pencil
Mm,
before. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like just imagining like the setback
right.
because, mine had been holding a pencil probably since she was like 3.
Okay.
So she had that experience and everything. But just coming into a classroom where, is basically divided and the teacher is only one now, didn't even have two kindergarten teachers. That was a shocker for me too. But just understanding like some of these kids are being set so far behind because they're not being taught these things at home, or just open up to, hey, let's draw something. Like, so please explain to parents that need for that fine motor skill.
Definitely, there's a need. However, at that age, pre-K going into kindergarten, we want to really focus on play, right? So activities that would foster using that pencil graph or the three finger graphs for activities incorporated play. Now, coloring, you can do coloring, but I would recommend breaking the crayons so that they fit the child's hands, because, at the age, their hands are small, and so they don't necessarily have the precision and control to hold a larger pencil and or a crayon. So if we're doing some writing, it needs to be using a utensil that is appropriately sized for their age, but also incorporating that play so that you're developing those fine motor skills. So then when they do have to write, they're already strong or maturing to the level at which they need to be expected to do some writing.
Yes. And how, like, we're combating against technology because, these kids, like, I can type it. Like, I can type it. Like, you even find yourself as an adult typing more than you're writing. I still write because I'm a writer at heart. So, like, a lot of things I have to see in writing in general before I'm even able to type it. But I even find myself getting winded when I'm writing. Like, I'm like, shaking off my hand, like, oh my God, like, how long has it been since I've done this? So it's like, you're combating against some things. So is technology incorporated with penmanship?
I wouldn't say that it's not needed, but I feel like needs to be a balance, right? So if we're making sure that our children are developing those fine motor skills and handwriting skills prior to us full force bringing in that typing, that would be ideal. However, there should be a balance. So that way, if, for instance, technology is not readily available, they can have the option to write as a form of communication. But definitely, handwriting still is essential skill, right? Even in the age of technology, because we're using multiple senses, right? And neural pathways, so which is contributing to cognitive growth. Research has even shown that writing by hand is also associated with memory, comprehension, creativity, and fostering a deeper learning and critical thinking. So it definitely is a need. But again, I don't see anything wrong with typing for sure, because some students, they do struggle with the handwriting and we need to implement the typing so to help them communicate easier. But don't push it before we have developed those skills and as it pertains to fine motor and handwriting skills.
And see, I could tell you that I had 10th and 12th graders reach me and they penmanship was like, yo, right. What's going on? Just type it. Don't even worry about it. Because I want to be able to read what you got going on.
Right. And that's the struggle too, like, because we want to address it early on. So when it gets to a high schooler, it's a struggle. By then, it's a struggle and they've created bad habits. So it's kind of like easier to introduce the typing. But then again, having formal typing lessons and instruction as well, so that they can formally type with bilateral coordination and ease as well, is the key.
Yes. Let's talk about your homeschool life. How did we get there? What made you homeschool?
It just happened by happenstance because we moved into a district and we thought we were in one school district, but found out we were in another school district. And so I just started homeschooling from there, starting in pre-K. My son is 14 and then my other son is 10. So we've been homeschooling since we're in pre-K.
Oh, wow. That's a commitment. Was there pushback? Was this a
No.
joint? Okay.
It was a joint decision. Me and my husband made a decision. And then, my children have flourished since being in homeschool, the flexibility, the opportunity for them to learn what they want to learn, when they want to learn it. We can still, if one of them is struggling with something, we can continue to focus on, their needs and focus on that particular subject so they can get stronger in that subject. I love homeschooling, the aspect of homeschooling.
Nice. And what about your boys? Like, with them entering into teenage years, do they have any kind of like, oh, I want to experience high school, mom. I want to go to high school.
Yes, that's where we're transitioning now. My son plays baseball, so he wants to play at the high school level. So yes, he will be going to brick and mortar next year.
Really? Oh, he's gonna want to come back home. Don't worry about it. Them sports
And
don't last that long.
and because my oldest is going, my youngest is like, I want to try it. So he's going to try it too. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
But they're both excited and they feel prepared. So I'm happy
Oh,
that they
I'm
feel
sure.
prepared.
Yes, the foundation that homeschool provides, in my opinion.
Right.
I've always, with the students that I had that came across came across me in their little educational journey, the homeschoolers always stood out. Like their problem solving, their critical thinking, their self-starting, like all that always stood out to me as far as homeschoolers that go back into public school.
Right.
So I'm pretty sure that they'll be great. What does the day look like for you all?
So I kind of juggle a lot of things. While I only not only homeschool, but I also work part-time as a virtual school-based occupational therapist. So we have a schedule. Like they get up at 7 o'clock, and from 7 o'clock they have to do the work until about noon or whatever. Sometimes it's even until like 4. It just
Oh
depends on
wow.
what they're studying. My oldest son, he's studying an AP course, and so he's really dialed into this biology book, and so he even after practice, sometimes he's coming home. So it just kind of varies what our schedule looks like, what their schedule looks like, how they're feeling. Because if something is of interest to them, they'll continue to want to learn it. Like I don't say, hey, you have to be done at this time. All day you could be able to enjoy not only being working out, maybe to having that larger body movement to take a break, or reading a book, doing your math. You can choose. I allow them to choose as long as they get it done, within the day.
Indeed. Are they on like a virtual program, or
No,
are you creating the
just me,
curriculum?
just me creating
Oh,
curriculum.
nice. So are you pulling from things, or are you just like, how are you creating this curriculum?
Basically, it's kind of like they do worksheets. They do have to write papers. Like if they have to do cursive penmanship during the day. They're having to read a book, and then I'm developing questions to go with the book. So you're writing the book, and then at the end of the book, you're writing a paper. Like just different things like that. My son does take one course, a Spanish course, online, but that's about the only thing they do really do online. But otherwise, it's just from books,
Nice.
workbooks, and bound books.
Nice. And are their learning styles similar?
No, because they both have different personalities. So no.
Very
but
different.
but that's good and challenging at the same time. But it's like I have the option and the ability to structure their lessons around their learning styles. So that's a plus and a blessing in itself.
Of course, of course. We want to meet them where they're at. Talk about your balance. Like you started off saying that, you have to balance because you have a part-time job, and you also you have the Penmanship Lab, and you also have the homeschooling. How do you find that balance?
I think my schedule, me writing down and on a calendar every day is my saving grace.
Okay.
So that's how I find the balance. And then sometimes just mentally and physically knowing how to step away and or take a break.
Nice.
As moms, and we try to do all the things, and sometimes we just can't do.
Indeed. Are you all involved in any co-op?
We're not. So
No.
it's, our homeschool inside the home, and then just doing baseball because our life is encompassed with baseball. So that's our life. Our
And
life.
baseball is like year round. Do they both play?
They both play.
Oh wow, yes. Yeah, baseball, they be having like 100 games a season.
And then
Oh,
we try to take field trips here and there, too.
nice. Nice. Okay. I love it. So, whole family, the whole unit, y'all are on board as far as the educational journey goes, how y'all want it to look, how y'all want it to be structured. How involved are they with you and you building the curriculum as far as your sons go? How much input do you have from them?
Okay, well, I have boys,
Mhm.
so I give them the option, but they don't really take advantage of the option, which I'm like, you don't know how good you have it, like I'm allowing you to choose, a subject or a topic of your choice to really dive in and learn it, and they don't take advantage of it. So I am really the one who chooses everything. Every now and then I'm like, if we mastered a subject, do we still need to cover it again? Like, or can we move on? Like that kind of thing. And they're really vocal about how they feel. They can express how they feel, whether or not they feel confident or they need additional help in that subject, or they need just more materials to help them cover that particular topic to ensure that they've mastered it. So
Gotcha. Besides academics, what are some like real skills, life skills that you focus on, especially with having young men? What's some skills that you like, okay, we need to incorporate this?
I think that when you leave the home, self-advocacy is really important. So be able to communicate your needs and your wants in a manner that gets your point across, that is clear and concise, is really what we also focus on. We also focus on just the daily life skills. They have chores like the taking out the trash. They've been doing their laundry for years. They do help with cooking, making sure you put the dishes away. Like they have responsibilities. So knowing that, we are here to help you and guide you, but also you are a part of this household and you do have some responsibilities as well to contribute.
Yes, that is very important. That self-advocacy, I feel like that's missed out a lot on when you're in public school, only because, it's like a do as you're told type of
Right.
situation. And so like, as a parent, when you send them away, it's like, make sure you're listening to those adults. Make sure you're listening to those adults. And so it's not much pushback in regards to, okay, this doesn't feel right. And I don't feel like this is good for me, but I'm supposed to listen. So I'm just going to sit here and be quiet. So that's why I had to, yes, please. Self-advocacy is very important because we don't want just yes children. We want to have opinions and thoughts. And that's what I felt I was pulling out of students at times.
Right. And also being able to problem solve, right? We're navigating in a world where we're dependent upon a lot of things, right? So what tools did I equip you with that you can use outside of the home? Like you shouldn't be dependent on the teacher to give you the answer. Like, you shouldn't be dependent on looking something up on the internet. You shouldn't be dependent on a calculator. Like if these things were not available, how can you use the skills that you already have or that we've taught you and able to problem solve and figure it out?
Yes, yes, yes. Are you a first generation homeschooler? Are you the only
Yes.
one for okay? Because it seemed like you like transitioned to this to be homeschooling, like, oh yeah, no, we're not in the school district we want to be in. So let's just stay home. Like that was an easy decision. So it was always on your radar.
It was. And you're kind of like, what do I do? What do I like? It was new to me. So I was figuring it out as I went along, and I didn't have anybody or any resources to necessarily tell me what to do. So I was just kind of figuring out on my own. But over time, you kind of get confident in your abilities to, you are the parent, you're their, but you're not like their teacher. You're not a trained certified teacher, but yet you are in a sense because you've been to school, you qualified to teach your own kids. It's not like you're not, but you still feel that sometimes that insecurity, like, am I doing all the things right? But you are, as a parent, you know what's best for your child.
Yes.
And you're capable and equipped to provide them with all their needs and education.
Indeed. And a lot of parents take away like they forget that they had already been doing it. Like you've already been teaching them before they got to that school age, teaching them how to brush their teeth, how to sit down properly at a table, how to, use their manners. There's so many things that you're already filling them with. And parents just feel like, oh, once some academics come into play, it's like, oh no, you gotta go.
Right. And I think it boils down to too, like the idea of testing. Like if you're not passing a test, then you are not doing your job. But when it's not in fact that, like children have to fail. They have to fail and learn from their mistakes. And that's what we're setting them up for in the future. It doesn't look like passing a test, like, you know what I mean? Because that's just not reality. Yeah. Are you remembering the information, obtaining the information, or absorbing it so that you can use it for later? Not just instantaneously, but for later.
Yes, because that retaining just to pass the test, that's typically how it goes. Like, oh, I'm gonna hold on to this information long enough for
Right.
me to take this multiple choice question test, and then it's gone. So, yeah, no, I understand. What state are you homeschooling in?
So I'm in Texas.
Texas. What are the requirements looking like in Texas? Do you have
None.
portfolio?
No,
Nothing.
nothing.
I know I was just asked that question the other day, so I decided to ask you. And we homeschool from Arizona, and that's where we're
Okay.
home based in. So, and it's none really. We have some required subjects, but there's no portfolio, there's no attendance, there's no check-in in general. Like once you file that affidavit, like, oh, y'all good. And I love that. Thank you for trusting me with my kids. Like, I love it. So, okay, back to penmanship. What are these one-on-one lessons looking like? Because are y'all virtual or are you doing this in person?
Majority of mine are virtual right now,
Okay.
but what be it being virtual or in person, they kind of much look the same. So we can start off with a warm up and a fine motor activity that could be arts and crafts activity or just a fine motor activity in general, and then we can move on to a visual perception activity. Then doing a little bit of 5 to 10 minutes of the formal handwriting instruction. Maybe prior to that, I noticed you're struggling with your attention and focus and you're kind of wiggly. We need to get up and move around and do a gross motor activity. So all these things, whether be in a regular format, is still incorporated within the sessions. And then, as an incentive at the end, a game would be played, things like that.
Okay. And tie in the occupational therapist, because I know when you started, you said that's where you saw the need at. How, what explain occupational therapist?
Okay, so occupational therapy is working with students. If we're talking about a school-based occupational therapist, the school-based occupational therapist is working with children on those fine motor skills, those handwriting skills, the pencil grip, the visual motor perception skills, the gross motor skills. So a lot of kids within the classroom, they're having to sit for long periods of time, right? So they're not able to maintain that upright posture or have that core strength in order to be able to have shoulder stability to write for long periods of time, or even just this posture to hold that pencil correctly. So we're working on the gross motor skills for that. So to work on that, the core strengthening and the shoulder stability to be able to hold the pencil. And then working on visual perception, because sometimes kids, they struggle with, being able to place the letters on the line correctly. So where do we need to find out where, you're struggling with? Like if we're completing an activity where there's visual discrimination, or visual perceptual skills, like a highlights activity. Can you find these items within the bigger picture? So again, to work on that visual perceptual skills activities. And then we're also working on being able to follow multi-step directions. A lot of kids struggle with following multi-step directions. When giving handwriting instruction or formal letter formation, we're working on, can you write this letter? If I'm giving you the steps, verbally giving you the steps, not only can you say them as you're writing the letter, which will help you, can you remember all the steps that I'm telling you in order to form that particular letter? So we work on a variety of things. What else? Let me think. What else can I say? Besides, those are the main components. And then fostering that independence and creativity as well. And then again, being able to a self-advocate for yourself. If I'm not there or your teacher's not there or parents are there, how would you be able to figure it out? How would you be able to problem solve? Things like that.
Gotcha. Okay. So, and you work on the sense of like IEPs and 504. So these are kids who need accommodations.
Right. For the part-time job, some of the
Yeah.
students who need additional services who have IEP 504 contact me too, or students who don't qualify, but the parents know they're struggling and have a need for more instruction, they contact me as well.
Okay. So are you through the school or this is parent private?
So my business is separate and it's private. So if
Okay.
you are in a particular school district that I'm working for, then you could qualify for my services. But again, if you're needing additional support and or services, then you would reach out to me.
Gotcha. And this is virtual also.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So you are reached everywhere.
I can reach you everywhere. And
That's
a lot
cool.
of people are like, well, how can you do that virtually? Teach handwriting virtually. There's a lot of verbal and visual cues and prompting that are provided. And I've been doing it for a long time, and there's still the same benefits as if you were in person. You're just not, having that connection with somebody in person, but developing connection with somebody online. It's very functional and feasible for a student to still grow and master their penmanship virtually as well.
Of course, of course. Can I ask you to elaborate more on that district issue? You think like why didn't you want to go with the district that you're in? What's wrong with it?
So
What's wrong with it?
at the time we were living in Ohio.
Oh, okay.
And so that district didn't have a good score. And
Okay.
so that's what prompted me to homeschool.
Okay, gotcha. As far as like testing score or just overall school
Just
score?
overall school score.
Oh, gotcha,
Mhm.
gotcha. Okay, okay. Look, I'm learning, I'm learning. Just crying. Um, so with all that you do and all the balance that you have to find, how do you self-care? What does that look like for you?
So I try to work out 2 to 3 times a week in the morning before I start my day. And then on the weekends when there's no baseball, it's just me time. Like I'm watching and catching up on TV shows. But that's pretty much what self-care looks like. I really, really enjoy working out in the mornings before I start my day. It helps me
To like provide that balance.
provide that balance.
Yes. Can you talk more on when your young men were growing up, how you were dividing time? Because it is a 2-year age gap. Was it more on the same, like you had the 12-year-old doing what the 14-year-old was doing, or how was that looking?
No, they were doing different things, but we were sitting together, right? So my oldest son, he is very mature and has always had a love for learning and is really smart. And so I didn't really have to, at the beginning, when he was really young, I had to help him as more than I did as he was like in second, third, and fourth grade. He was very independent in his work. And I was just literally just having to check and guide him if something was wrong and he would correct it. But I really didn't have to give him as much attention as my younger son. My younger son, he didn't read as early as my oldest. And so incorporating the handwriting helped with his learning. So handwriting and reading are interrelated. And so that helped him be able to read at a level. And now he's flourishing. He loves to spell, like that's his thing. And it's so funny and interesting. I love to see it because, where he was, like he at the beginning, not to say he was like far off from where not to compare the two, but far off from reading compared to my oldest, but he was struggling at the beginning to read. And so again, adding that penmanship and working on sight words and then developing those reading skills helped. But
Okay.
they're two different. They're two different. It's interesting. The personalities are totally different.
Yes. And I've never thought about reading and penmanship going together. I've never like put the two. I love reading. I love reading and I also love writing. But I've never placed them together as to, if you are to write, you would be a stronger reader.
Right. So if you're struggling to read, it may be because you're maybe not recognizing the letters, phonemic awareness, things like that. So when you're writing, you're grasping those skills prior to being able to read.
Okay. Okay. You got me my wheels turning, like as far as my 7-year-old going. It's like, okay, well, maybe we need to sit down and write just a little
Mm-hmm.
bit more. Um, yeah. Okay. I'm learning. Like I said, I'm learning. So, okay, let's talk more on homeschooling. As far as your immediate family goes, because you are a first generation homeschooler, what were your parents like? As far I hear a lot, like, even with experience with mine, it's like, oh, okay, they want to do pop quizzes, they want to, are you sure
Yeah.
you should be doing this?
Yeah.
Like, things of that nature. Did you have to experience those things? And when did it fade out? Because you've been doing it for a while now. So it's like I would hope that it had fade out, but how did that look?
I feel like it's has faded out a little bit, but there's still like, those pop quizzes and things every now and then. And now that they're going to public school, they feel like they should have gone to private school because that transition, because public school, the class sizes are bigger, and as you're
Yeah.
homeschooled, you're not used to being in a bigger class size. And then private schools tend to give more individualized instruction and support versus public school. But I did get that, not feeling like I was doing a disservice to to my children by not putting in public school or into school in general. But I think they see over the years, they've seen that they're getting the education and the materials and knowledge and skill sets that they need, that will carry over for lifelong longevity, for as they get older. They haven't been deprived of an education,
Of course not. But I
maybe.
always, mhm.
But I feel like, again, goes back to what we were talking about earlier, the testing. So it's like, well, have they been tested? Like, how do you know where they are? I guess in comparison to other kids their age and grade level. And it's like, okay, they're good.
Yeah. No, I ask these questions because these are things that I know parents, especially new homeschoolers, experience. And it's like, it's a lot to have to defend what you're doing, your lifestyle, basically, because homeschooling is a lifestyle. And to have to, constantly defend that. How did you stand up to that? Like, okay, girl, leave my kids alone, or hey,
I mean,
respectfully.
I really didn't say much,
Okay.
except, they're good. Like
Okay.
they're not being deprived, and they're learning basically if the same, if not more than what their peers would be learning if they were in the classroom. So
nice. So he's like, okay, like, I hear you, but
mhm.
we're not worried.
Yeah. How do you handle that when you get asked those questions?
I like you, like,
Yeah.
I really don't put much thought into it. I just like, okay, like, now I listen. I just be listening to what, especially with the pop quizzes. I just sit back and listen because there's a lot of things like, would you even would you ask that to a child who was in public school? Would you ask them that? Would you quiz them like that? I don't see parents or anyone or grandparents or
Right.
aunts or uncles, asking any kid that's in public school, oh, okay, what you studying today? Oh,
Mhm.
what did you do today? Like, it's
Mhm.
always like oh, how did y'all waste y'all day? That's how I be
Mhm. Mhm.
because I know your mama didn't teach you.
Mhm.
So,
And then I don't give grades. Do you give grades?
no, no, no,
Mhm.
no.
So then the question becomes like, well, how do you know if they're doing well
Yeah.
if you don't give grades, or yeah,
Yes. And early on, were you testing? Like, were you giving them formal testing or were you just
no,
observing? Because
I'm
I'm an
just observing.
observer.
I'm just
Yeah.
an observer, but I have, since we moved to Texas, I'm going to say that I have just for the sake of it, just to kind of just see that we have called a STAR test, and so I'm
Mm,
just kind of like, okay, just take this just to see, can you time, because I don't time, like when they do stuff, I don't time. So
mm,
given the opportunity to time them to see if they're, do they need more time or are they on pace, that kind of thing, basically, and then what areas do we need to focus more on? That's basically why I do it.
yeah.
But I mean, I don't do testing either. Like we give them quizzes, but we don't like formally sit down and say, oh, you're going to take this test. Like we don't do
Yeah.
that.
Do y'all do a lot of project based or
I
especially
would,
now since they're a little older, do you do projects?
I don't do written projects either. Like when my oldest was in elementary school, we did projects, but now I more do papers, like not like,
Mm,
okay, make this poster into what you're learning. Like I do papers, like those, making sure like the grammar and being able to
mm.
put your thoughts in your own words. And are you comprehending and understanding what you read? Can you convey that again in your own words? Um, that's what I do.
Yeah, no, that I feel like that's important. I feel like you had a confidence in stepping into this that like you don't even realize, like, because you bet on yourself all the way. You did the curriculum, did your schedule, then you said I don't need no co-op. Like you was like, I got this. Like, like low key, I got this.
But
So that's why I'm
thanks.
like, Okay,
Right.
this had to have been already because I know before I had mine, I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna homeschool my kids. I'm gonna
Okay.
homeschool my kids." Like I used to say that all the time, but that was from me working in the public school
Right.
system.
Right.
That was from what I was seeing, so it's just like a no brainer for me. But when it came time and I actually had mine, it was like, "Oh, like I'm already, still
Mhm.
teaching, and these kids need me."
Right.
And like, so it took me a minute to like actually say, you know what, no, I gotta focus on mine. So that did take a minute, but I know I have a level of confidence only because of what I saw in the public school system. So it's easy for me to be like, oh yeah, no, we ain't gotta do that.
Right. Right.
That wasn't working. That I saw that. I know for a fact that wasn't
Right.
working. Um,
I recently attended a meeting and I was shocked because they are preparing first graders for the third grade test because in particular states, in third grade, if you don't pass the reading portion, you're retained. But I'm like, the child's in first grade, they haven't developed those skills and are matured enough yet for you to be trying to pull in and get them at a level of a third grader,
yeah,
like, and they're introducing typing in first grade. It's like, you're giving them the option to type versus write. But again, they still need to work on
mm,
those fine motor and penmanship skills, and they are not getting the opportunity to do that. So it's a little sad to know
it
that.
is. It is hearing a lot of the stories as far as elementary goes. Because I said, I did always say I was gonna homeschool, but I always said it from the middle school on up level. Like I didn't want my kids to go to middle
Mhm.
school. But I always thought, elementary was okay. Like I
Right.
thought it was going to be okay. And I always feel like elementary school teachers are just like little saints that just little angels that fell out the sky and was like, oh, I'm going to teach all these little
Mhm.
kids. And so I always looked at them in a different light. However, like you just said about the testing and the just setting up the children, it's like that testing aspect has just taken over all
Right.
everything. And then with the typing, like I hear stories about kids being on the computer from basically from the time they get in the door to the time they
Mhm.
leave out. Like everything is from the computer.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's as early as first grade, but I know definitely third grade. A lot of the kids are everything is on their laptop.
Mhm.
Um, and I feel like that's kind of harmful
Yes.
because it's like, okay, if they're sitting on the laptop all day, when are they doing the peer-to-peer interactions or even doing the like when are they asking the teacher for assistance or any? It's like I know it's self-directed and that's a good thing. Like I
Right.
feel the self-direction is good, being a self-starter or self-pacer, like being able to do things on your own without someone being over your back or telling you, oh, you need to do this is very important. However, sitting in front of a screen from the time you walk in the school door to the time you leave out the school door can't be healthy.
Right. Right. Again, finding that balance. I'm not saying technology is bad, but I'm pretty sure some of these kids have not even developed or mastered some of those fine motor or handwriting skills before they put a tablet or computer in their hand. And so again, as the years progress, and then they all of a sudden have to use a pencil or a pen, they don't have those skills, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, they don't. I remember having my senior sign stuff like, "Hey, give me your signature here." They don't even want to know what a signature is. They're not
Mm-hmm.
writing in cursive; they're writing in print,
Mm-hmm.
and it's I don't know. I know the focus because technology isn't going anywhere. We know this. Technology is very prevalent. And I even have talked to people about the fact that there's thousands of jobs that have not been created that will be present in about 20 years. And it's, we can't deprive, like you said, it is about finding a balance because we don't want to not have our children on technology and then be so far behind everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, you do want, like you said, if this stuff does not work at this time, can you add without a calculator? Can you write? Can you write and still be able to do this assignment without being able to type it? Like those things are important. And I always want to reinforce that with my own, of course. And I feel like parents should pay attention to that also because technology is around and we know that, but technology also malfunctions.
Mm-hmm.
Technology also lets you down. Technology erase a whole paper on you. Like, So it is about the balance. So I'm glad you keep saying that. Like, hey, find that balance.
And then what if you have to, change a tire, or you have to be able to zip your jacket, or you have to be able to open a container.
That's the
Like
fine
those
motor.
are fine motor skills. Like, they need to be able to do that.
Yeah. I remember my girls having the little doll with the button, the tie your shoe and the zipper and all that stuff.
Mhm.
And like just those things. I feel like fine motor wise, my oldest, I think she's always had it. Like she's a pretty advanced young lady. My younger, I was scared for her for a little bit. It's just like,
Right.
oh, I didn't know, where things were going with her, but she just flourished. And that was the whole comparing and contrasting that I had to grow out of and stop. Like, okay, Kenny is Kenny, Morgan
Right.
is Morgan.
Right.
Like, leave them girls alone. Because when I tell you Kenny was a chatterbox from 2 on up, like full complete sentences and everything. But our time that I spent with her also was different than Morgan. I spent like almost 2 years with Kennedy at home, which is me and her.
Right.
Whereas Morgan, she was in daycare at 6 weeks because I was in the classroom. So it was totally different, totally different. And Morgan, and we didn't start understanding Morgan until after she was 3. Like before then, it was just all like, what are you saying? And Kenny would translate for her. And I was like, is she really saying that? I had to grow out of the comparing and contrast because they both are beautiful young ladies that are definitely very intelligent in their own right, and I love it. But I always hone in on the reading and the writing. I feel like if you can read, you can do anything.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I promote reading really, really heavily. It's like, yo, you want to be able to depend on somebody to read everything for you. That's why I always tell my youngest now, because like she still give me pushback when it's
Mm-hmm.
time to sit down and read, but we tell her, hey, you got it. You have to be able to do this on your own.
Right.
You don't want to depend on anyone to
Right.
read directions for you. You don't want to street signs for you, everything. Like you know how dependent you're gonna have to be if you
Right.
can't read.
And there's a difference between reading on a computer and a tablet versus picking up a book and being able to touch and smell and, turn the pages one at a time versus
Yes.
just tapping on a screen and swiping. Like there's different, like there's a difference. Being able to use the multiple senses and the kinesthetics is different.
Yes.
And kids need that.
Indeed. How big was libraries in your homeschooling journey?
It's big. It was big. Going to the library, just bags of books that we take home, and then them combing through those books and reading them. That was a big deal. Like trips to the library is a really big deal.
Yeah, we love the library. We're real heavy library goers, and I love the activities that they provide. Because you say you didn't do co-op, so where did you find other activities and things? Did you find other homeschool families or?
Not really. There was like a volunteer group, so we were doing a lot of volunteering, and so
Nice.
getting out in the community, talking to other parents. At that time, the kids were little, so a lot of stay-at-home moms had little kids too. So we were interacting with those families, and again, volunteering in the community, and them interacting with adults too. So that was good too. Not only interacting with children, but also being able to interact with adults. Again, working on that advocacy and communication skills, whether it be with a child or an adult. So, and then
Nice.
sports as well.
Nice. Have they always just done baseball?
No, they've done basketball and soccer.
No, okay, but baseball is where they was
Mhm.
like,
Yes.
that's where those big bucks are. Like, baseball. I've had 2 nephews that have played baseball.
Okay.
They phased out though, and the one he now plays football at a college in Charlotte, but and then the other one he don't play nothing. He just stopped everything altogether. But I love it, and I appreciate you sharing your journey with us and all that you do and why you do what you do. Where can we find Penmanship Lab?
So my website is www.thepenmanshiplab.com. I'm also in Instagram, the underscore penmanship lab, excuse me, the underscore penmanship underscore lab. So 2 places where you can find me.
No worries. We'll have it in the description
Okay.
also. And before I let you go, can you give parents three little tidbits that you would say, okay, maybe I wish somebody would have told me this when I started homeschooling?
I really, really believe, truly believe in letting your child be themselves. Don't change them, no matter what anybody says. People are going to always have their opinion, but let your child be who they are. And if they need help in certain areas, just help them in those areas, but don't change who they are. Adapt it to and personalize it for who they are and their unique learning style. Two, I would also encourage game night or whatever that maybe look like so we can get families to be together, spend that time, communicate, work on those fine motor skills. That's very important. And then thirdly, just if you have questions, I think it's a struggle for parents to, if you've got a newly diagnosed child, neurodivergent child, or you see your child struggling, being an advocate, yes, the teachers have a lot of students, the educated staff at the schools, they have a lot of stuff that they have to do, but you are their parent and advocate for your child. You may get pushback, but you need to advocate for your child. And if you have questions in regards to what does that look like, how do I talk to the educators and the teachers to convey my child's needs? Because again, you can't teach every child the same. Every child doesn't have the same needs. So if you're noticing that your child is struggling, please, please, please advocate for your child. Ask the question, and you deserve the answers.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for that. Because those were three things that those are across the board. If you have kids, these are things to consider. Like those are not homeschool things, those are parenting tips. So I appreciate that. Parents, tap in, understand that the resources are there, and understand that we have to be able to write. Okay. But I do feel like that is something that we still should need to do. And as Leslie has put it, and I didn't even think about it, penmanship can help your young reader. So make sure that you are practicing on those fine motor skills. Make sure you are honing in on the things that they need to continue to be their best self,
Right.
and let them be their best self.
Right.
Remember, you are the standard. There is no standard that you have to go by. We are all individuals. Allow them to be their individual self and just celebrate them for being
Right.
them, and flourish in watching them grow into all that they can be and would like to be. So
Absolutely.
thank you, Leslie. Thank you. Thank you. Remember to homeschool your kids.